Hello and welcome to Sipz and Stories. My name is Elizabeth, and in today's video I will be discussing my favorite comfort classic books. These are books that I have loved ever since I was a child, and I love to reread these books every couple of years. I haven't done much rereading since I started BookTube. There has been just such pressure to read new books or new to me classics. One of my goals in the new year is to allow myself the space to go back and reread some of my favorite books and maybe create more videos for my channel. Also, I am very excited to announce I have just created a new Etsy shop called Rebound Classics, which I will link below. And during the last few months, I have discovered a new hobby, bookbinding, and I absolutely love it. As a book collector, it has been such a pleasure to create my own books now, to go back and take some of these gently used classics that I'm finding at used bookstores or at charity shops and recreating them into these gorgeous hardback editions of classics that we all know and love. This one right here is The Railway Children by E. Nesbit, and it is so much fun. I love finding the fabric that matches the book and the paper for the end papers, and all of my books come with a ribbon bookmark as well. My goal is to create these one-of-a-kind collector's pieces for book collectors just like me, and just have these beautiful naked hardback books that you would be proud to have displayed on your bedside table or on a coffee table. So for the rest of this video, I would like to show you some of my favorite comfort classics. I will show you some of my favorite editions of these classics that I personally have collected over the years, as well as showing you some of these new books that I have created for my Etsy shop, Rebound Classics. One of my favorite comfort classics is Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. This edition is really special to me. It was gifted to me by my grandmother when I was a child. It is by Longmeadow Press Children's Library out of Stamford, Connecticut, and it just has these gorgeous illustrations by W.E. Webster. So there are the girls on the cover playing Pilgrim's Progress, of course, and then the back cover is Joe and Lori at the dance. And yeah, I've always loved Little Women ever since I was a kid. And because this was the only edition that I ever read, I thought for the longest time that Little Women ended with Meg getting married. It wasn't until I was a teenager that I figured out that there was a part 2 to Little Women, Good Wives, and I just love discovering Good Wives as well. There's more in the series too, Little Men, Joe's Boys. If you love the March family like I do, there is a lot of books by Louisa May Alcott that you can read. Another edition of Little Women that I really love is this edition that is curated and edited by Barbara Heller, and it's by Chronicle Books. And this edition I've shown on my channel before. It includes the letters, and so every few pages or so it comes with letters. This one's obviously for Joe, and it's just beautiful, just all the different handwriting of the March sisters and Lori and Mr. Lawrence and Hannah. I love this edition, but I haven't had a chance to read it yet, so I thought maybe this year I'll go back and give myself some time to reread Little Women, and I cannot wait to read it in this beautiful edition that is edited by Barbara Heller with the letters. Okay, so here is my edition of Little Women that I created, and this is a Barnes & Noble Classics edition. I love Barnes & Noble Classics. I love reading Barnes & Noble Classics. I actually prefer them to the Penguin Classics because the font is just a little bit larger. Anytime I can use a Barnes & Noble Classic for Rebound Classics, I will. This one does include Little Women and Good Wives. It has a lot of supplementary material as well, but I just loved the fabric that I found for this one. It's beautiful rosebud fabric on this light blue background. It also includes just these maroon end papers and then a lovely green ribbon bookmark. And again, I just want these to be collector's items that you can proudly display for your family and friends on your coffee table. One of my favorite classics of all time is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. In fact, I've talked a lot about Jane Eyre on this channel. It has remained most of my adult life my favorite classic book, and the more classics I read, They never really knock Jane Eyre out of first place. I just love this book so much. I love the romance between Jane and Mr. Rochester. I love that they're so strong together, but yet more importantly, they're so strong as individuals too. Love this book so much, and I haven't read Jane Eyre in a long time. This edition I've shown before is the Thomas Nelson Seasons edition with the laser cut dust jacket. There's the front, there's the back. It's very heavy, by the way. It also comes with the laser cut bookmark, and these Thomas Nelson Seasons editions are absolutely beautiful. I only own a couple of them, but I would definitely like to collect more. I also own this copy of Jane Eyre that is by Penguin Clothbound Classics, and I don't love the Clothbound Classics as much as a lot of people do, but I do have the Bronte set and the Austen set, and I really do like this copy of Jane Eyre ever since I heard the designer Coralie Bickford-Smith talk about why she chose the colors for this edition. She chose gray and red because she thought that those two colors best represented Jane Eyre's personality. Just the gray, low-key, spinsterish version of Jane, and then the red, the pop of red, to represent Jane's fiery personality and her passionate nature. Ever since I heard that interview with Coralie Bickford-Smith, now I really like this book, when at first I didn't. For my own version of Jane Eyre, I was inspired to use those same colors. I got this beautiful gray fabric with this very light, feathery design on it. And then for the end papers, you know it, I did use that fiery red to represent Jane's personality, and then just a lovely red bookmark as well. When it comes to comforting classics, you can't go wrong with anything by Jane Austen. This is one of my Barbara Heller Letters edition of Pride and Prejudice. I love Pride and Prejudice. I've talked about it before. It's my favorite Jane Austen. It's also the Jane Austen I recommend the most to people that are new to Austen. I have friends and they're a little ashamed. They've said, Elizabeth, I don't know where to start with Jane Austen. Where do I start? Definitely Pride and Prejudice. Am I right? Once you read Pride and Prejudice and go back and watch those movies with Colin Firth or Keira Knightley, you will instantly become an Austen fan. And again, I haven't read it in quite some time. I do think the one by Chronicle Books, the Letters edition, will be a nice one to reread this year. I also have this edition of Pride and Prejudice by Vintage Classics, and a lot of you might be thinking, okay, what's so special about this edition? It's special to me. It's one of my favorite books because I got it at Shakespeare & Company in Paris. Shakespeare & Company is the very famous English language bookstore in Paris. It's right across the street from Notre Dame, so if you're in the area, it's right there. You can't miss it. They have a beautiful, lovely coffee shop next door for all of your family and friends that are just need to sit down and have a cup of coffee while you spend hours in Shakespeare & Company. And when you buy a book from them, they do the famous Shakespeare & Company stamp. So again, if there was a fire, I would grab that edition of Little Women from my grandmother and then this edition of Pride and Prejudice, and I would run out the door. Okay, so here is my take on Pride and Prejudice, and my mom actually picked out this fabric. She liked it. It is a rose pattern on a black background, and I did green end papers for this one, and then a red ribbon bookmark. My mom liked the fabric. She said it reminded her of Pride and Prejudice, so thanks, Mom. And I do. I think it is very romantic. At first, I got this one for Rebecca, and then Rebecca fell apart, so I tried it for Pride and Prejudice, and it seemed to work really nicely. And again, I do think it does represent the romantic nature of Pride and Prejudice very well. I think it would make a nice gift for Valentine's Day. Wink, wink. Speaking of Jane Austen, I think if you are a book collector like me, you can't go wrong with these Marjolaine Baston editions of some of Jane Austen's classic books like Pride and Prejudice, like Emma. And again, I have the letters version of Pride and Prejudice. So for Emma, I wanted to get this version. It's absolutely beautiful, stunning in person. I will link my Jane Austen video below so you can see it in more detail. But what's special about this book is Marjolaine Baston is a very famous illustrator. Each page of this book has beautiful illustrations of flowers and birds and plants and animals. And then tucked within the pages are all these things like dance cards and maps books and letters, very similar to the letters edition of classic books as well. These ones are a little bit bigger, and again, I cannot wait to read this one. I've had this on my bookshelf for a couple years now, but I've never allowed myself to go back and read it, but I love these editions of these classic books. Okay, here is my take on Emma by Jane Austen. This is also a Barnes & Noble Classics edition, and I just loved this fabric. It is a purple flower pattern on a purple background. And then I think, what did I do? Yep, I did a pop of like a mint green end paper for this one, and then a lavender ribbon bookmark. Anytime I can use those Barnes & Noble's Classics, I do. I do prefer those to the Penguin Classics. Next up is Alice in Wonderland and Alice Through the Looking Glass by Lewis Carroll. These naked hardback editions are by Canterbury Press. So they're Canterbury Press Children's Classics editions or Children's Illustrated editions. And the thing that I like the most about these ones is they'll take those old pen and ink illustrations and they've colorized them, or they've added color to them. Really beautiful editions if you can track down these Canterbury Press Children's Classics editions. And I do have a confession to make. I've never actually read Alice in Wonderland all the way through. I think I've skimmed it when I was a little kid. I've read the Jabberwocky and some of the poems and things like that, but I've never read Alice in Wonderland cover to cover. I thought that might make for an interesting video this year of revisiting Alice in Wonderland as an adult. Maybe reading some similar books with a similar theme. I know there's so many YA novels now that are based on Alice in Wonderland. Look forward to that video. I think it's going to be a special project for me this year. When I actually read Alice in Wonderland, I'll probably read this edition by MinaLima. I love collecting MinaLima. I've talked about them in depth on this channel. I visited their shop in London. It is so much fun if you're in London. I will link that video below if you're interested in seeing this book in more detail. One reason I like this edition is that Alice has red hair in this edition. So here is the close-up shot there. But yeah, I really need to get around to reading Alice in Wonderland. Okay, here is my take on Alice in Wonderland. This is also a Barnes & Noble classic, and I held on to this book for the longest time, just waiting to find the right fabric. And I looked around at a number of stores and I finally found it, and I love this fabric so much. It's got the mushrooms on it, the butterflies, the flowers. It just really gives me Alice in Wonderland vibes. Love this one so much. And what did I use? I think I used more of a salmon pink end papers and then a pink ribbon bookmark for this one. Another children's classic that I love collecting is Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie. And I think so many of us are familiar with this story. We've seen the movie, we've seen Finding Neverland, and all these stories based on Peter Pan. But I do recommend going back and reading the source material. I love J.M. Barrie's descriptions of childhood. He really captures that childhood innocence so well. Again, this is a Canterbury Classics edition that I have. I also have the MinaLima edition of Peter Pan, of course. This is by far my favorite edition of MinaLima. I always tell people, if you're just gonna buy one MinaLima for yourself or to gift to a child, I do recommend the Peter Pan version. But here is my edition of Peter Pan, and as you can see with those previous editions, I think so many versions of Peter Pan really emphasize Peter and Tinkerbell and Wendy and have some sort of like blue background, where when I saw this pirate fabric at the store, I immediately knew I was going to use it for Peter Pan, because not enough covers emphasize the pirate element of Peter Pan, I feel. And I just love that fabric. I thought it was so fun, the skulls and the crossbones, and I thought it was perfect for Peter Pan. One of my other favorite comforting classic reads is A Little Princess by Frances Hodgson Burnett. And this edition is really special to me. It is a hardback edition by HarperCollins. It's illustrated by Tasha Tudor. If you can find it, I do recommend this edition. The illustrations are absolutely lovely. I love this story. I've loved it ever since I was a child. Just this whole idea of this rich little girl suddenly becoming a poor orphan and having to work at Miss Minchin's academy. And then how she creates the magic for herself and for Becky, and then the magic comes to life. Again, even as an adult, I love reading this book. Nowadays, when I can't sleep or I'm overthinking things or I'm feeling sick, I like to listen to the audiobook of this. I will link the audiobook below. I especially love the Karen Savage version of A Little Princess. Karen Savage is the best, and so many of her audiobooks are free here on YouTube and on LibriVox. Another edition that has come out recently of A Little Princess are these Puffin and Bloom editions that are illustrated by Anna Bond of Rifle Paper Company. And right, who doesn't love Rifle Paper Company? I like these ones, and I found so far this one and Anne of Green Gables, and I think there's Heidi and Little Women in this series as well if you like Anna Bond's colorful illustrations. I especially love the end papers of A Little Princess. I wish there was some sort of like fabric that I could turn into a pillow or a bedspread with those end papers. All right, here is my version of A Little Princess, and I found this very sweet fabric. It really reminded me of a little girl, a little flower pattern here. And then it also came in blue. So this is Little Princess, and then this is Secret Garden. They're both by the same publisher, Rebound Classics, and so they're both roughly the same size. And I just loved creating two of these books by the same author and these contrasting fabrics. And for Little Princess, it comes with yellow end papers, pink ribbon bookmark. For A Secret Garden, I think I did, yes, green end papers and then a blue ribbon bookmark. But these ones are so sweet, some of my favorites that I've created for Rebound Classics. Next up, a series I would love to revisit this year is The Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis. And these editions that I have are from the 90s. They're illustrated by Chris Van Allsburg. He illustrated Jumanji and just a lot of those classic picture books. I especially love his illustrations for Narnia. However, I've never been able to find them in a hardback edition. I've looked for years to find a hardback edition of The Chronicles of Narnia. I can't. There's some old vintage folios. They're really expensive on eBay. Can't afford those folios. So instead, I created my own. This is my version of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which is book 2 in the Chronicles of Narnia. I love this fabric. It's a white snowflake pattern on a dark blue background. I thought it was perfect for The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And then I think for this one, I did red end papers and then a white ribbon bookmark. But I really would like to revisit The Chronicles of Narnia this year. I think it would make, again, for a great video. Haven't read this series since I was a child, and I really, really love C.S. Lewis. Another children's series that I would like to talk about more on this channel and is a comforting classic to me is Winnie the Pooh by A.A. Milne. I have these really vintage Dutton editions from the 1960s. I have all 4, Winnie the Pooh, House on Pooh Corner, We Are 6, When We Were Very Young. And these are some of, again, my favorite books in my collection, and they're from the 1960s, so I like to think that these are the editions that Walt Disney was reading with his daughters before he created Winnie the Pooh, the classic animated movie. Here is my edition of Winnie the Pooh that I created for Rebound Classics, and it might be hard to see on camera. Gingham is probably not showing up very well, but it is a red gingham fabric. It has a red ribbon bookmark, and then again, those red dark maroon end papers. I love this one. It's probably one of my favorites that I've created so far. It's just really lovely, looks beautiful sitting on a coffee table. It's just really fun. And last, but certainly not least, one of my favorite comforting classics is Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone by J.K. Rowling. I really love the MinaLima editions, and so far MinaLima has come out with the first book, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, the second book, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, and then recently, a few months ago, they came out with a third book, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. I have been rereading these books in the MinaLima editions, and oh my gosh, guys, I love Harry Potter. I haven't read the books in such a long time. I only really remember the movies now, and now I just love them. I love J.K. Rowling's sense of humor. I think she just has such a fantastic sense of humor, very reminiscent of Roald Dahl, her actual writing. And there's something really special, I think, about the first 3 books in the series. Those ones to me really represent childhood classics. I'm so happy that MinaLima came out with these editions of the Harry Potter books. If you're doing a reread of Harry Potter, I highly recommend these illustrated editions by Jim Kay. They're pretty famous now. I think he's illustrated all the way up to book 5 or 6, either The Order of the Phoenix or Half-Blood Prince. But again, if you're like me and you're doing this big reread of Harry Potter, just getting back into J.K. Rowling's writing, this is also a nice addition to read yourself or to introduce children to the series as well. Here is my edition of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, and I knew when I started Rebound Classics I really wanted to do Harry Potter, and I wasn't super happy with all the fabric that was out there, all the licensed Harry Potter fabric, until I came across this one. I love this fabric so much. It is really what it is. It's the Deathly Hallows symbol, the triangle to represent the invisibility cloak, and then the circle represents the Philosopher's Stone, and then the line represents the Elder Wand. And I thought it would also be perfect for Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone because all 3 of those symbols take place in the first book, and I just love it. The Deathly Hallows symbol is in gold against this black background, and then of course I found gold end papers, and then I did a gold ribbon bookmark for this one. This one is one of my favorites, and I have extra fabric, so if I ever come across another edition of Harry Potter, I definitely want to make more of this version. Thank you everyone for joining me for my overview of my favorite comforting classics. These are books that I like to reread every few years or so, and I just love these books. They really represent some of my favorite classic reads. I am having a great time this year rereading books like Harry Potter or the Chronicles of Narnia or the Winnie the Pooh series. Please stay tuned for more videos in the future. Also, thank you for joining me for my shameless plug for my new Etsy shop, Rebound Classics, which I will link again below. I love bookbinding. It is such a fun hobby. I love shopping for the books at the used bookstores or the charity shops. It's like this big treasure hunt because I never know what I'm going to find. So keep revisiting the shop because I'll be updating it every couple of weeks or so. And for instance, I'm currently working on Anne of Green Gables, Heidi, Gulliver's Travels. I found this really cool fabric for The Golden Compass by Philip Pullman. So keep checking in. I'll be updating the shop. Thank you everyone for joining me and have a great day.